Hi guys, so today I'm going to be doing a City of Heavenly Fire book talk / review. So if you have not read this book or the entire Mortal Instruments series, I would recommend not watching this video if you don't want to be spoiled. So I'm just gonna get talking on this beautiful baby. First of all, it's huge. Like, there are 725 beautiful pages in this book, and that is like this is the biggest book I have ever read. So, oh my gosh, let's just keep talking about it. So, on the cover, I'm not really sure why Sebastian is blue. That was never really explained. And Clary is wearing white, so white is the color for morning. So the prologue with Emma, they introduced Emma, and I loved her like the first time she said anything. Like, I love Emma, and I cannot wait for the Dark Artifices because I'm pretty sure she's gonna be in that series. So I'm very excited for that. Fall 2015, I will be at Barnes & Noble on the day it comes out. I know it. The whole entire prologue was just like, oh my god! I love Emma and Jules. They're just so cute, and even though they're only 12, I ship them. Even though they might become parabatai, which would make for a really emotional love. So the entire prologue was a little bit slow at first, but then when Sebastian came, everything was just like, oh my gosh! Everything was just so awesome, and it was the perfect way to start the entire book and the entire like stuff that was gonna happen in the book. So I was just like, yes, Emma, you are a kick-butt character. When she stabbed Sebastian in the heart and then he pulled it out, I was just like, oh, what? And all the endarkened soldiers, I was just like, oh my gosh, this book is going to be amazing. And it was, obviously. So then we jumped to the first chapter where Jace is like meditating with Jordan. So that part was really funny. There was lots of Jace sarcasm, which I really appreciated, and lots of Clace and Sissy feels. So the first chapter was great, and then when Simon and Clary are Christmas shopping at Sephora, Jocelyn comes in and is like, all of the institutes have been attacked by Sebastian. And it was just like, yes. So then that just set off the entire plotline of the book, basically. So then there's that whole thing where Jace and Clary go through that portal, and all the Endarkened soldiers and Sebastian are there, and Brother Zachariah. Yes, we all knew Brother Zachariah from the Infernal Devices series, and I love him. I love Zachariah Brosy. We all know who Brother Zachariah is if you read the Infernal Devices series. It's Jen. So Sebastian stabs Jace in the shoulder, and then Brother Zachariah goes and puts his hand on his shoulder. I'm pretty sure that's what happens. And then like the Heavenly Fire like makes Brother Zachariah somehow, I'm not really sure how that happened, and made Brother Zachariah gem again. So that part I was just like, heck yes, Brother Zachariah. And then Sebastian just disappears like that again, and all the Endarkened soldiers, and oh my gosh, when that one Endarkened soldier was killed, and the one guy who was not an Endarkened soldier, he was just a Shadow Hunter, had to kill his parabatai who was an Endarkened soldier, that was just like, oh my gosh, that is like intense. It was so sad, just like having to kill your parabatai. So then there's a scene where the Seelie Queen and Sebastian are like in bed together, which was weird. But he's obviously using the fairies for his little plan, and yeah. So then the Clave thinks that the fairies are on their side. I'm just like, no, the fairies are bad. Come on, guys. And then Sebastian appears in Clary's room, and he's all like up at her neck. And then Jace comes in, he's like, get away from my girlfriend, yo. And then Sebastian disappears again, and he's like, I have come with the angel blood. I almost forgot about that. He's like, I am coming, and then I have come. And Alex's character development through this entire book was just amazing. I grew to love him as a character. Never really got to know him that well through all the other books, but in this book we really got to know him, and I really started loving him because he is sassy and I love it. So then the entire crew, Alec, Jace, Clary, Izzy, and Simon, they go to the Seelie Court thinking that they just need to get to Edom so that they can get to to Sebastian, because it was something that he said. I completely forget. I forgot too much about this book already, and I just read it in the past 2 days. And they get in the fight with the Seelie Queen, and Clary does that awesome rune stuff with her stele, and it's just like, yes, Clary, you are amazing. And Alec is like super kick butt in that scene because he's like putting arrows in that fairy guy that used to date Isabel. I forget what his name was. Something with an M. But yeah, that whole scene was just like awesome with Alec. And then they go on the road to Edom. They go to Edom again, and then they find that ruined cave, and they're like, wait, there were shadow hunters here. And they're like in the demon place. So they didn't know, but they're in another dimension, another shadow hunter world, and in that world the shadow hunters were different. The shadow hunters are dead, and Alicante is like the same, but it's all like burned down. And it was just so cool how Cassandra did that. Like the other dimension, or like the other shadow hunter world, they were just like the same but different, obviously. And then they're just, you know, hanging out in that cave with all the runes, and all those scenes were just perfection. Like the Sizzy and the Clace feels, especially the Clace feels, if you know what I mean. And also when Alec is talking about making pies, I shouldn't say the word that he said because it's a bad word, but it's hilarious, and that scene was just perfect. Oh, and also when Jocelyn, Luke, Raphael, and Magnus go to that dinner with the fairies, thinking that they're gonna do like an alliance, but they actually drug them, and then they take them to Edom. So that's like the entire reason that the whole crew went to Edom. That's what I forgot to say, because I apparently have short-term memory loss or something. And then that Iron Sister that Jace killed when he was under control by Sebastian was in the desert place, and all of the heavenly fire went up, and then Clary saved Jace with the sword. She went into the fire to save Jace. She didn't know she was gonna die or not, but she went in for Jace because she loved him. That part was just so amazing. Oh, and when Jace went into Brother Zachariah's room and he's Jem, that whole conversation was just awesome. And Jem talking to Jace about Herondales, it's just like, yes, I'm thinking of Will the entire time. And I was really emotional at that part when they were like talking about Will and Tessa and Jem. I really loved all the bromance conversations with Jace and Alec. When Jace says, oh, that should be on my tombstone, he's like heterosexual and had low expectations. That, oh my gosh, I just love Jace so much. Oh, and also when the London Institute got attacked, Jessamine was the ghost that protected them. And that is just, oh my gosh. They were talking about, oh, there was a ghost that protected the London Institute. And it was Jessamine. That's so cool. I love how Cassandra Clare just connects all of her books in such an amazing way. I just love that about her writing. So back to them being in the cave, they soon figure out that they're actually in Alicante in a different dimension. So they steal the Endarkened soldiers' outfits. Oh, and then there's the statue of the Jonathan Shadowhunter of that world. So Jace being Jace, he takes the weapon, and then all the demons come out. That's how the demons came out. And then they went inside of the Hall of Chords, or I forget where it was, but it was somewhere in Alicante, and that's where they meet Sebastian. And then they go up those windy stairs to get to Jocelyn, Luke, and Magnus. And they only find Luke and Magnus, obviously because Jocelyn is locked up. And then they get to Luke and Magnus is all weak and was just like, no, my baby Magnus. I love Magnus. He is literally like the Beyonce of the Mortal Instruments. And then Clary goes to Sebastian and he's like, you need to go on the throne or else I will burn down the world. And so obviously being Clary, Clary goes onto the throne, and little do we know that Jason Clary had a plan. So Clary is obviously going to take the throne, and everybody had to play along, and then she was going to hug him, which did happen, and then she pulled out her sword, which when she put it into the heavenly fire that Jace was putting out of himself, that got heavenly fire infused into her Morgenstern blade, and then she stuck it into him, and it takes all the demon crap out of him. I'm just like, what? And then he's Jonathan again, and I'm just like, he had green eyes, and he was Jonathan, and then Jocelyn is holding him, and then Jonathan is just saying how sorry he is about everything, and that it wasn't him, it was the demon, obviously, inside of him. And he's just like, I've never felt so light. And then he looked up at them and he died. And I really, like, that is the only affection that I've ever felt for Sebastian/Jonathan. And I really was crying at that part. I was crying at what would have been Sebastian, or would have been Jonathan. So if Sebastian would never have been infused with the demon blood, he would have been Jonathan. He would have had those green eyes, and it just made me really emotional at that part. I was just like a mourning for what could have been. So then they're trapped inside the other Shadowhunter dimension, and they can't get out. So Magnus had some daddy issues, and his father was actually one of the like greater demons, I think, or one of the like big huge demons, and they have to give up someone's immortality to go back. And first Magnus tries to give up his, and then obviously that doesn't happen, and then Simon volunteers because he never wanted to be a vampire. Obviously he didn't want that, so he volunteered. And also Magnus's daddy wanted his memories of the shadow hunting world, and at that part I was just sobbing because Simon was one of my favorite characters from this entire series, and I was just like, he was never gonna know who Clary was or who any of them were, and Sizzy would never be a thing. And I really thought that that was how it's gonna stay. They get to go back to New York because when Sebastian was stabbed, all of the Endarkened soldiers just died. The war was over, obviously, and all the fairies went away. And so yeah, so they went back to New York without Simon because he had no memory of them, and they could never approach him again because that would be against the Clave law. And at that part I was just like a crying mess because Simon was Clary's best friend, and Sizzy could never be a thing, and I was just like, my heart was broken. And I was really like glad that Cassandra didn't pull like a Veronica Roth on us and kill everyone, all of the main characters, because she did kill Jordan and she killed Raphael and them, but I really thought that like one of the important characters like Alec or Magnus or Jace were going to die. And I'm really glad that she did not kill any of the like really important characters that we all love off, and that was like a really great thing about the book. So then there's the epilogue, and through the entire epilogue I was happy crying because the epilogue was just so beautiful. It wasn't like the Clockwork Princess epilogue where it's just like tears falling of sadness and death, and it was just like complete sadness. It was happy crying through this epilogue, and I really appreciated that because I did not really want to go through deep depression like I did in Clockwork Princess. So in the epilogue, it is right after Jocelyn and Luke's wedding, and we've all been waiting for that wedding throughout the entire series, basically, since City of Glass. And it finally happened, and everyone's there, and everyone's fine. So before the epilogue, Clary went up to Simon, and obviously he doesn't remember her at all, and she's just like asking him questions, and it was just like complete tears falling because I really thought that they were never going to be able to talk again, that he was never going to remember them. And she was just like asking him random questions, and he was like, do I know you? So then after Clary and them go away, Izzy and Magnus go up to him again, and they talk to him about the Shadowhunter world. And I'm not really sure how they got away with doing this without the Clave knowing, and I'm not sure how it wasn't illegal. I completely forget that part because, I don't know, I forgot about that part. And they tell him about like how his life was before he forgot everything, and he's like, I have always like felt like something was missing. And then he sees Isabel and he's like, that's the most beautiful girl I've ever seen. I was just like, it feels, dying of feels. And they take Simon to the wedding, and they say that Simon could become a shadow hunter if he wanted to. And that is just so cool because then Clary and Simon could become parabatai, and that is just how it always should have been. Simon should have been a shadow hunter, and they should have been parabatai because they're best friends, they aren't in love, so it won't like mess anything up. And it's just like, it was meant to happen. But that didn't happen in the book, but it should have happened. That's what I think. So then they're all at Jocelyn and Luke's wedding, and everything is just so happy. And then Jem and Tessa are there together, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, two of my favorite worlds colliding. And Clary has that conversation with Tessa, and throughout that whole thing, I was just like, oh my gosh, two of my favorite female heroines together. It was just amazing to see them talking. And then Jace wants to change his last name to Herondale, he doesn't want to be like the last of the Herondales. Don't have a Herondale ring, so that's why he was like skeptical about it. But then Tessa gave Clary the Herondale ring to give to Jace, and everything worked out. And then Tessa also gave Clary her Shadowhunter's Codex that was really old, and then it had that line in it: "Freely we serve because we freely love, as in our will, to love or not. In this we stand or fall." And that entire part was just so beautiful. And then Jem stole Church. And I'm not sure if Church was like immortal or something, because that cat has lived for like 140 years. That cat has been there since the Infernal Devices in the 1800s, so I'm guessing the cat was immortal, or else the cat would not have been there. And obviously Church was Jem's cat, and it's the only person that Church would love. And then Jem stole Church, and I was just like crying of happiness because it was so beautiful and wonderful and amazing. And they all go to the beach, and they just sit on the beach, and it's just so perfect. And then it ends. The end of the Mortal Instruments series. And even though I've only been a part of this fandom for like a month, I am completely attached to these books. Like, I will never forget these stories, and knowing that it's ended, it's just like my heart being torn out. It's just, oh my gosh, this entire series has changed my life for the better, and it's got me into more fandoms. It's like, it's amazing. So that's all I have to say about this book. The entire story was just incredible, and I'm really glad that it wasn't like Clockwork Princess where everyone dies. Well, not everyone didn't die in Clockwork Princess, but I was happy that the epilogue was happy, and it was just really heartwarming, and it was the perfect ending to this amazing series. So Cassandra Clare did an incredible job on this series and this book, and the entire book was just amazing. And I have been talking for half an hour about this book, so I think I'm gonna stop talking. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and I will talk to you guys in my next one. Bye!